Sarah Martinez had always been different from other girls her age. While her classmates spent their weekends at shopping malls or movie theaters, she could be found at the local shooting range with her grandfather, learning the precise art of marksmanship. Her fingers, delicate as they appeared, held a steadiness that amazed even the most experienced shooters at the range. The morning sun cast long shadows across the military training facility as Sarah adjusted the scope on her rifle for the third time. She had been accepted into the elite sniper training program after months of rigorous testing, but acceptance and belonging were two entirely different things. The other recruits, all men, had made their feelings about her presence abundantly clear from day one. "Still playing with that toy, Martinez?" called out Jake Thompson, a tall recruit from Texas who seemed to take particular pleasure in making her life difficult. His voice carried across the range, drawing snickers from the group of men gathered around the equipment station. Sarah didn't respond. She had learned early in her military career that reactions only fueled their behavior. Instead, she continued her methodical preparation, checking each component of her weapon with the precision her grandfather had taught her years ago. The memory of his weathered hands guiding hers as they cleaned rifles together brought a small smile to her face. The training facility buzzed with activity as recruits prepared for their daily exercises. The sound of boots on concrete, the metallic clicks of weapons being assembled, and the distant commands of drill sergeants created a symphony of military preparation. Sarah had grown to love these sounds, finding comfort in the routine and discipline they represented. Instructor Williams approached the firing line, his stern expression revealing nothing about his thoughts regarding the day's training. He was a veteran of 3 overseas deployments, a man whose reputation for producing exceptional snipers was matched only by his reputation for being incredibly demanding. His eyes swept across the assembled recruits, lingering momentarily on Sarah before moving on. "Today we're testing your ability to hit targets at varying distances under pressure," Williams announced. "You'll have 3 minutes to engage 5 targets ranging from 300 to 800 meters. Wind conditions are moderate, and you'll be working in pairs for observation and feedback." Sarah felt her heart rate increase slightly, not from nervousness, but from anticipation. This was what she had trained for, what she had dreamed about since childhood. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind, reminding her to breathe steadily, to feel the rhythm of her heartbeat, and to find that perfect moment between breaths when everything aligned. The other recruits began pairing off, their choices clearly influenced by friendships and alliances formed over weeks of training. Sarah found herself standing alone, watching as partnerships formed around her. The isolation stung, but she had grown accustomed to it. She would prove herself through performance, not popularity. "Looks like Martinez needs a partner," Thompson called out, his tone suggesting this was somehow amusing. "I'll take one for the team and work with her. Should be entertaining to watch her try to keep up." Sarah's jaw tightened, but she nodded professionally. She had worked with Thompson before, and while his attitude was insufferable, he was technically competent. She could use his skills as a spotter while ignoring his commentary. As they moved to their assigned position, Thompson continued his running commentary about female soldiers and their supposed limitations. Sarah tuned him out, focusing instead on reading the environmental conditions. The wind was shifting slightly from the southwest, and the heat was beginning to create mirage effects that would need to be accounted for at longer ranges. She settled into her shooting position, adjusting the bipod legs and checking her cheek weld against the stock. Her breathing automatically shifted into the rhythmic pattern she had practiced thousands of times. Through the scope, she could see the targets clearly marked at various distances across the range. "Range is hot," Williams called out. "Commence firing when ready." Sarah's world narrowed to the view through her scope. The first target, a standard silhouette at 300 meters, appeared large and clear. She made minor adjustments for windage and elevation, her movements smooth and deliberate. Thompson lay beside her with binoculars, supposedly providing wind calls and observations, but his comments were more focused on doubt than assistance. "Wind's picking up from the left," he muttered, though Sarah had already noticed and adjusted for it. "Hope you can compensate for that. This isn't like shooting at paper targets in some civilian range." Sarah squeezed the trigger during her natural respiratory pause, feeling the familiar recoil against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched the bullet strike the target center mass. Without pausing, she worked the bolt and acquired the second target at 400 meters. Her movements flowed like a practiced dance, each action precise and economical. Adjust for distance, read the wind, control breathing, find the natural point of aim and squeeze. The second shot was equally successful, striking the target's vital zone with mechanical precision. The remaining recruits had begun to notice her performance. Conversations grew quieter as more attention focused on her shooting position. Some appeared surprised, others skeptical, as if waiting for her to fail on the more challenging shots. The third target sat at 600 meters, requiring more significant adjustments for bullet drop and wind drift. Sarah made careful calculations referencing the ballistic data she had memorized for her specific ammunition. Thompson's commentary had grown less frequent as her shots continued to find their marks. "Getting lucky so far," he finally said, though his tone had lost some of its earlier confidence. "Let's see how you handle the long-range shots. That's where real snipers prove themselves." Sarah positioned herself for the 700-meter target, aware that several instructors had moved closer to observe. The pressure was building, but she welcomed it. Pressure revealed character, and she was ready to show exactly who she was. Her grandfather's teachings had prepared her for moments like this, where skill met scrutiny and determination faced doubt. The target appeared smaller through the scope at this distance, requiring her to use every technique she had mastered. She felt completely centered, completely focused, as if the entire world had condensed to the space between her position and that distant target. This was her element, her domain, and she was ready to prove it belonged to her. The 700-meter shot connected perfectly, the bullet striking the target's center ring with an audible impact that carried across the range. A murmur rippled through the gathered recruits and instructors. Sarah worked the bolt smoothly, ejecting the spent cartridge and chambering a fresh round for the final target at 800 meters. Thompson's role as her spotter had gradually shifted from skeptical commentary to genuine assistance. Despite his prejudices, his professional training kicked in as he began providing useful wind readings and target confirmations. "Winds shifted slightly right, maybe 2 miles per hour, he reported. His binoculars trained on the distant target. Sarah made the appropriate adjustment, her fingers moving the turrets with practiced precision. The 800-meter target represented the outer edge of what most recruits could reliably hit under ideal conditions. Heat waves were beginning to distort the view, and the wind had become more variable as the morning progressed. She settled into her firing position once more, feeling the familiar comfort of the rifle's stock against her cheek. Through the scope, the target appeared as a small, wavering silhouette. Sarah controlled her breathing, waiting for that perfect moment when her natural point of aim, wind conditions, and respiratory pause aligned perfectly. The shot broke cleanly, the rifle's recoil familiar and controlled. Through the scope, Sarah watched the bullet's impact, another center hit that brought complete silence to the range. She had just completed a perfect score on a challenging course of fire, something that typically took recruits multiple attempts to achieve. Instructor Williams approached their position, his expression unreadable. "Martinez, report to the equipment station for weapon inspection," he commanded. Sarah nodded and began breaking down her rifle, following standard post-firing procedures. As she walked toward the equipment station, she could hear whispered conversations among the other recruits. Some expressed grudging respect, others seemed to be making excuses about luck or favorable conditions. Thompson remained at their firing position, apparently deep in thought about what he had just witnessed. The afternoon brought more advanced exercises, including moving targets and unknown distance engagements. Sarah continued to perform exceptionally, her consistency beginning to separate her from even the better shooters in the program. Her ability to read environmental conditions, make rapid calculations, and execute precise shots under pressure marked her as something special. During the lunch break, Sarah sat alone at a corner table in the mess hall, reviewing her performance data and planning adjustments for the afternoon session. She had developed a habit of analyzing every shot, understanding not just her successes but also identifying areas where microscopic improvements were possible. Several recruits approached her table, their attitudes ranging from curious to challenging. Marcus Webb, generally considered one of the top performers in the program, sat down across from her. "That was some impressive shooting this morning," he said, his tone suggesting he wasn't entirely pleased about acknowledging it. "Thank you," Sarah replied simply, continuing to study her notes. She had learned that modesty often disarmed those looking for confrontation. while confidence could provoke unnecessary challenges. Must be nice having instructors go easy on you, added Rick Patterson, another recruit who had struggled with the morning's exercises. Special accommodations for diversity programs and all that. Sarah looked up from her notes, meeting Patterson's eyes directly. The targets don't know or care about diversity programs, she said calmly. They either get hit or they don't. The comment drew a few chuckles from nearby tables, diffusing some of the tension while making Sarah's point clear. She wasn't interested in debates about her right to be there. She preferred to let her performance speak for itself. The afternoon session focused on fieldcraft and camouflage techniques. Recruits were required to establish concealed firing positions and engage targets while remaining undetected by opposing observers. This exercise tested not only shooting skills but also patience, creativity, and tactical thinking. Sarah drew on knowledge gained from countless hours spent hunting with her grandfather, understanding how to use natural terrain and vegetation to break up her outline. She moved carefully through the training area, selecting a position that offered good fields of fire while providing natural concealment. Thompson had been assigned as her partner again, a pairing that Williams seemed to favor despite their obvious personality conflicts. As they worked together to establish their hide, Thompson's attitude continued to evolve from dismissive to professionally respectful. "You really know what you're doing out here," he admitted as they arranged local vegetation to enhance their camouflage. "This isn't just range shooting anymore. This is real fieldcraft." Sarah nodded, focused on creating firing lanes through the brush without creating obvious disturbances that would reveal their position. "My grandfather taught me that shooting is only part of being a sniper," she explained. "The rest is about thinking, planning, and understanding your environment." They spent 2 hours in their concealed position, engaging multiple targets while avoiding detection by roving observer teams. Sarah's shots were consistently accurate, while her ability to remain motionless and patient impressed even Thompson, who had begun to see her as a serious competitor rather than a novelty. As evening approached, the day's exercises concluded with individual performance reviews. Each recruit met privately with Instructor Williams to discuss their progress and areas needing improvement. Sarah entered the review session knowing she had performed well, but also aware that excellence in training didn't guarantee acceptance or respect from her peers. Williams studied her performance charts, his expression revealing nothing about his assessment. The silence stretched for several minutes before he finally looked up. "Martinez, your shooting scores are among the highest I've seen in 15 years of running this program," he said matter-of-factly. Sarah felt a surge of pride but kept her expression neutral. "Thank you, sir. I'm committed to continuous improvement." "That's good because excellence in marksmanship is just the entry fee for this program," Williams continued. "Real snipers need more than good shooting. They need mental toughness, tactical intelligence, and the ability to function under extreme stress. Are you prepared for what's coming next?" Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Yes, sir. I'm ready for whatever challenges the program presents." Williams nodded slowly. "We'll see. Tomorrow we begin urban warfare scenarios. The training becomes significantly more challenging, and not everyone makes it through. Get some rest and be prepared to prove yourself all over again." As Sarah left the review session, she reflected on the day's events. She had demonstrated her shooting ability convincingly, but she understood that tomorrow would bring new tests and new opportunities to prove her worth. The initial skepticism from her fellow recruits was slowly giving way to grudging respect, but she knew that earning their complete acceptance would require much more than one day of excellent performance. The next morning brought dense fog that clung to the training facility like a heavy blanket. Sarah arrived early, as was her habit, to prepare her equipment and review the day's training objectives. The urban warfare simulation would test everything she had learned, combining marksmanship with tactical movement, communication, and split-second decision-making. The mock city sprawled across several acres, complete with multi-story buildings, narrow alleyways, and realistic urban obstacles. Constructed from shipping containers and prefabricated structures, it accurately replicated the challenges snipers faced in real combat environments. Hidden throughout the complex were pop-up targets, electronic sensors, and observation posts manned by instructors. "Today you'll be operating in teams of 4, Williams announced to the assembled recruits. "Each team will include a sniper, spotter, communications specialist, and team leader. Your mission is to eliminate designated high-value targets while avoiding detection and neutralizing threats to friendly forces. Sarah found herself assigned to a team with Thompson as her spotter, Marcus Webb as team leader, and David Chen as communications specialist. The composition surprised her, as it included some of the program's strongest performers. Either Williams had confidence in her abilities, or he was setting up a challenging test. Webb gathered the team for mission planning, spreading a detailed map of the urban complex across a tactical table. Primary target is located in the third-floor office of Building Charlie, he explained, pointing to a structure in the complex's center. Secondary targets are mobile patrols that will identify during infiltration. Sarah studied the map carefully, identifying potential firing positions and escape routes. The third-floor target would require a shooting position with elevation and clear sightlines, while remaining concealed from ground-level observers. Several buildings offered possibilities, but each came with specific advantages and risks. I recommend this position, Sarah said, indicating a 4-story structure approximately 400 meters from the target building. Good elevation, multiple escape routes, and natural concealment from the rooftop ventilation equipment. Thompson nodded approvingly. Solid choice. I can provide overwatch and target identification from there. His transformation from skeptic to supporter had been gradual but genuine, earned through repeated demonstrations of Sarah's competence. Webb assigned movement routes and communication protocols, demonstrating the leadership skills that had earned him respect among the recruits. Chen tested radio equipment and established contact with the exercise control center. The team functioned smoothly, their individual strengths complementing each other effectively. The infiltration began at dawn, with the team moving carefully through the mock urban terrain. Sarah carried her rifle in a low-ready position, constantly scanning for threats while maintaining awareness of her team's location. The weight of her equipment, including ammunition, communication gear, and survival supplies, was distributed across her body in a way that allowed for sustained movement. They encountered their first challenge within minutes of entering the complex. Electronic sensors hidden throughout the area would detect movement and trigger alerts if teams moved too quickly or carelessly. Sarah's hunting experience proved valuable as she led the team through detection zones using natural cover and patient movement. Contact front, Webb whispered into his radio, spotting a patrol of role-playing opposing forces. The team immediately took cover, with Sarah positioning herself to provide overwatch while Webb coordinated their response. Through her scope, she could see 3 figures moving between buildings, following a predictable patrol pattern. The exercise rules required them to avoid unnecessary engagement while moving toward their primary objective. Sarah tracked the patrol through her scope, noting their timing and routes for future reference. Thompson lay beside her, providing detailed descriptions of the patrol's movements and equipment. After 20 minutes of careful observation, the patrol moved away from their intended route. The team advanced again, reaching the base of their selected sniper position without detection. The building's interior was dark and cluttered with training props designed to simulate real urban conditions. Sarah led the climb to the roof, her movements deliberate and quiet. Each floor presented potential hiding spots for opposing forces or observation posts manned by instructors. The team cleared each level methodically, with Sarah providing security while the others moved and communicated. The rooftop offered an excellent view of the target building, exactly as Sarah had predicted during planning. She established her firing position behind a concrete barrier that provided both concealment and stability for precision shooting. Thompson set up his spotting scope nearby, while Webb and Chen established communication and security positions. Through her rifle scope, Sarah could see into the third-floor office where their primary target would eventually appear. The distance was manageable, but wind conditions and the urban environment created additional challenges. Heat rising from the concrete surfaces below caused mirage effects that would need constant monitoring. Target building shows movement on the second floor, Thompson reported, his voice barely audible. No visual on primary target yet. Sarah adjusted her scope's focus and checked her range estimation. The shot would require precise calculation of bullet drop and wind drift, complicated by the swirling air currents common in urban environments. She made preliminary adjustments to her scope's turrets, preparing for the engagement. Minutes passed with no sign of the primary target. Sarah remained motionless behind her rifle, controlling her breathing and maintaining focus despite the weight. Patience was perhaps the most critical skill for a sniper, and she had learned to embrace the stillness rather than fight it. "Movement, third floor, target window," Thompson whispered urgently. Through her scope, Sarah could see a figure moving into position behind the designated window. The target appeared briefly, then disappeared, following a pattern designed to test the sniper's ability to engage fleeting opportunities. Sarah tracked the window, predicting the target's next appearance based on the movement pattern. When the figure appeared again, she was ready. Her crosshairs were perfectly aligned, her breathing controlled, and her trigger finger applied steady pressure. The shot broke cleanly, and through her scope, Sarah watched the training ammunition strike the target precisely. A green light activated in the target window, indicating a successful hit and mission completion. Thompson confirmed the impact, his voice carrying a note of professional admiration. Primary target eliminated. Webb reported to exercise control, preparing for extraction. But their mission wasn't over. As they prepared to leave their position, Chen detected radio chatter indicating that opposing forces had triangulated their location based on the shot. Multiple teams were converging on their building, turning their extraction into a fighting withdrawal. Sarah quickly broke down her rifle and prepared for movement. The team had rehearsed this scenario, but executing it under pressure with hostile forces closing in would test everything they had learned. As they prepared to descend from the rooftop, Sarah felt the familiar calm that came with challenge and pressure. This was exactly where she belonged, and she was ready to prove it once again. The sound of boots echoing through the stairwell below signaled that opposing forces had reached their building. Sarah's team had perhaps 3 minutes before being discovered, requiring immediate action and flawless execution of their escape plan. Webb hand signaled for movement toward the building's rear exit, where a fire escape provided their primary extraction route. Sarah slung her rifle across her back and prepared for rapid movement. The transition from static sniper position to mobile infantry required a complete mental shift, changing from patient precision to dynamic action. Her training had emphasized this flexibility, recognizing that modern snipers must be capable warriors in all phases of operations. Thompson moved ahead to scout the fire escape, his role transitioning from spotter to point man. Through hand signals, he reported that the route appeared clear, but that vehicle movements in the distance suggested opposing forces were establishing a perimeter around the building. Their window of opportunity was closing rapidly. The team descended the fire escape with tactical precision, each member covering different sectors while maintaining silent communication. Sarah found herself responsible for rear security, constantly scanning upper windows and rooftops for threats while the team moved. Her situational awareness had been honed through countless hours of training, allowing her to process multiple threats simultaneously. As they reached the second-floor landing, the distinctive sound of radio chatter grew louder from within the building. The pursuing force was systematically clearing floors, working their way upward toward the now empty sniper position. Sarah estimated they had perhaps 90 seconds before the pursuers reached the roof and discovered their escape route. Webb directed the team toward a predetermined rally point 3 blocks away, where they could reassess the situation and plan their final extraction. The route required crossing 2 open areas where they would be vulnerable to observation, demanding careful timing and coordination. The first open area appeared clear as Thompson scouted ahead. Sarah provided overwatch from the fire escape while Webb and Chen prepared to bound across the exposed ground. The military movement technique of bounding overwatch allowed the team to maintain security while advancing through dangerous terrain. "Moving now," Webb whispered into his radio. Sarah watched through her rifle scope as Webb and Chen sprinted across the open courtyard, reaching cover behind a damaged vehicle. She then shifted her observation to surrounding windows and rooftops, searching for any signs of enemy reaction to their movement. Thompson signaled that he was ready to move, and Sarah prepared to follow. As they crossed the courtyard, she heard the distant shout of voices from their former building, indicating that the pursuing force had discovered their escape route. The race was now on to reach the extraction point before being intercepted. The second open area proved more challenging. As Thompson began his crossing, Sarah spotted movement in a window overlooking their route. Through her scope, she could see an opposing force member with binoculars, scanning the area systematically. The observer hadn't yet noticed Thompson, but discovery seemed inevitable. Sarah faced a critical decision. Engaging the observer would eliminate the immediate threat, but would also reveal her position to other hostile forces. Allowing the observer to continue scanning risked compromise of the entire team. Her training emphasized mission accomplishment and team safety above personal security. She made her choice quickly, acquiring the observer through her scope and delivering a precise shot with training ammunition. The green light indicating a successful hit appeared immediately. But Sarah knew that her muzzle flash and sound signature had revealed her position to anyone nearby. Observer down. I'm compromised, she reported quietly into her radio. Continue to extraction point. Webb's response was immediate and firm. Negative, we extract together. Thompson, provide covering fire. Chen, prepare smoke. Sarah felt a surge of emotion at Webb's words. Despite months of isolation and skepticism from her fellow recruits, her team was refusing to abandon her when operations became dangerous. The solidarity demonstrated something that no amount of training could teach. Genuine trust and respect earned through shared hardship. Chen deployed smoke grenades that created concealment for Sarah's movement across the second open area. She sprinted through the gray haze while Thompson engaged targets of opportunity with covering fire. The coordinated action allowed her to reach safety behind a concrete barrier where the rest of her team waited. Nice shooting back there, Thompson said as Sarah arrived at their position. That observer would have compromised our entire extraction. The acknowledgement meant more to Sarah than he probably realized. Thompson's evolution from skeptical critic to trusted teammate represented exactly the kind of acceptance she had hoped to achieve. Through demonstrated competence and reliability, the team's final movement to the extraction point required navigating through a maze of interconnected buildings and alleyways. Sarah took point for this phase, her intimate knowledge of urban terrain proving valuable in selecting routes that avoided likely ambush positions. Her grandfather's lessons about reading terrain applied equally well to urban environments and natural wilderness. As they approached the extraction zone, Chen established communication with exercise control to coordinate their pickup. The simulation would conclude once they reached the designated area without being intercepted by pursuing forces, marking successful completion of a challenging mission. Sarah reflected on the day's events as they moved toward safety. The urban warfare exercise had tested every aspect of her training, from pure marksmanship to tactical movement, team coordination, and decision-making under pressure. More importantly, it had demonstrated her ability to function as an integral part of a team, rather than simply an individual performer. The extraction point appeared ahead, marked by orange flags that indicated safe territory. As the team crossed into the zone, exercise control announced mission completion over the radio. They had successfully eliminated their primary target and extracted without compromise, achieving all mission objectives. During the immediate after-action review, Instructor Williams gathered all teams to discuss lessons learned and performance highlights. Sarah's team was specifically recognized for their coordination during the extraction phase, with particular emphasis on their decision to maintain team integrity rather than sacrifice individual members. Martinez, your transition from static sniper to mobile team member was exemplary, Williams noted during the debrief. Real operations require that kind of flexibility and adaptability. As the formal review concluded, Sarah found herself surrounded by recruits who had previously maintained their distance. The successful mission had demonstrated capabilities that transcended shooting ability, proving her value as a complete military professional rather than simply someone who could hit targets accurately. Webb approached her as the group began dispersing. Sarah, I owe you an apology, he said, using her first name for the first time since training began. I had doubts about female soldiers in combat roles, but you've proven that competence has nothing to do with gender. Sarah nodded, accepting the acknowledgement graciously while recognizing that real acceptance would continue to require consistent performance over time. Today's success represented progress, but she understood that each day would bring new opportunities to prove herself worthy of the trust her teammates had begun to place in her. 3 weeks into advanced training, Sarah had established herself as one of the program's top performers. Her consistent excellence in marksmanship, combined with demonstrated tactical competence, had gradually shifted the atmosphere around her from skepticism to acceptance. However, she understood that real respect would only come through sustained performance under increasingly challenging conditions. The morning brought news that would test every recruit's resolve. Instructor Williams announced that the next phase would involve a 5-day field exercise in mountainous terrain, simulating real-world conditions that snipers faced in combat deployments. Teams would operate independently, with minimal support and constant evaluation by hidden observers. Sarah's team had been expanded to include 2 additional members, creating a 6-person unit capable of extended independent operations. The additions were Patricia "Pat" Rodriguez, a communications specialist with experience in electronic warfare, and James "Jimmy" Park, a demolitions expert who also served as the team's medic. The expanded team gathered for detailed mission planning in a secure briefing room. Large topographical maps covered every surface, marked with elevation contours, vegetation patterns, and potential enemy positions. Their objective was to conduct surveillance and interdiction operations across a 20-square-mile area of rugged mountain terrain. Primary mission is intelligence gathering on enemy supply routes, Webb explained, pointing to several marked trails on the map. Secondary mission involves interdicting high-value targets as opportunities present themselves. We'll be operating independently for 5 days with no resupply or external support. Sarah studied the terrain carefully, identifying potential hide sites and fields of fire. The mountainous environment would provide excellent long-range shooting opportunities, but would also present challenges in terms of weather, concealment, and extraction routes. Her experience with outdoor survival, gained through years of hunting and camping with her grandfather, would prove invaluable. Equipment preparation consumed the entire afternoon. Each team member was responsible for specific categories of gear, from communications equipment to medical supplies, ammunition, and survival necessities. Sarah focused on her rifle system, cleaning and testing every component while selecting ammunition optimized for long-range mountain shooting. The team's departure began before dawn, with insertion by helicopter to a landing zone several miles from their operational area. As the aircraft lifted off, leaving them alone in the wilderness, Sarah felt the familiar excitement that came with real challenges. This exercise would test everything she had learned about being a sniper and a soldier. The first day involved movement to their primary observation post, a position offering views of multiple supply routes while providing concealment and defensive advantages. Sarah led the navigation, using terrain association techniques to move efficiently while avoiding likely enemy patrol routes. The mountain environment proved both beautiful and challenging. Dense forests provided excellent concealment but limited fields of fire, while open ridgelines offered long shooting opportunities but minimal cover. Sarah's team moved carefully through this varied terrain, constantly balancing speed against security. Their selected observation post occupied a rocky outcropping overlooking a valley that contained 2 major trail systems. Sarah established her primary firing position while Thompson set up his spotting equipment. The rest of the team created a defensive perimeter and established communications with higher headquarters. "Good choice of position," Park commented as he surveyed their surroundings. "Natural cover, multiple escape routes, and excellent fields of observation. This is exactly where I'd want to be if things get complicated." Sarah felt pride in his assessment. The ability to read terrain and select advantageous positions represented one of the most critical skills for a sniper, determining the difference between mission success and failure. Her intuitive understanding of how to use natural features tactically had developed through years of outdoor experience. The first target appeared late in the afternoon, a patrol of 6 role-playing enemy soldiers moving along the primary trail system. Through her scope, Sarah could observe their equipment, movement patterns, and apparent mission. Thompson recorded detailed observations while she tracked the patrol's progress through her crosshairs. "Lead target is approximately 650 meters," Thompson reported quietly. "Wind is variable, shifting between 5 and 8 miles per hour from the southwest." Sarah made appropriate adjustments to her scope settings, compensating for the distance and environmental conditions. The shot would be challenging, but well within her capabilities. However, engaging this patrol would reveal their position and potentially compromise their primary intelligence mission. Webb made the tactical decision to observe and report, rather than engage. Prioritizing mission accomplishment over immediate target elimination, Sarah agreed with the choice, though part of her wanted to demonstrate her long-range shooting capabilities under real field conditions. As darkness fell, the team established watch schedules that allowed continuous observation while providing rest for off-duty members. Sarah drew the midnight to 400 watch, a period when her keen eyesight and patient temperament would be most valuable. The mountain night brought complete darkness broken only by starlight and the occasional distant glow of vehicle headlights. Through her night vision scope, Sarah maintained surveillance on the trail systems while the rest of her team slept. The solitude and responsibility felt natural, confirming her belief that this was exactly the role she was meant to fill. Around 200 hours, Sarah detected movement that didn't match normal wildlife patterns. Through her night vision equipment, she could see figures moving carefully along the secondary trail, apparently attempting to avoid detection. Their movement techniques and equipment suggested this was a high-value target, rather than a routine patrol. She quietly awakened Thompson, who immediately began documenting the new target through his spotting scope. The figures appeared to be carrying specialized equipment and moving with obvious tactical training. This was exactly the type of target their mission had prioritized for interdiction. "Count 6 individuals with heavy packs," Thompson whispered. "Movement suggests special operations training. This could be our primary target." Sarah acquired the lead figure through her scope, making range and windage calculations in near total darkness. The shot would be extremely challenging, requiring precise calculation and flawless execution. A miss would alert the targets and compromise the mission, while success would eliminate a high-value enemy asset. Webb awakened as Sarah and Thompson tracked the moving targets. After quick consultation, he authorized engagement, recognizing the target's apparent value and the tactical advantage of night operations. Sarah would have one opportunity to prove her capabilities under the most challenging conditions possible. Through her scope, she tracked the lead target's movement, predicting his path and selecting the optimal engagement point. Her breathing controlled, her position stable, and her mind focused entirely on the complex calculations required for the shot. This was the moment that would define not just her performance in training, but her credibility as a combat sniper. The target paused at a trail junction, presenting a stationary silhouette against the night sky. Sarah's crosshairs settled on center mass, her finger applying steady pressure to the trigger. Every technique she had learned, every hour of practice, and every lesson from her grandfather converged in this single moment of ultimate test. The shot broke perfectly in the mountain silence, the sound echoing briefly off distant ridgelines before fading into the night. Through her scope, Sarah watched the training round strike precisely where she had aimed, activating the electronic sensor that confirmed a successful hit on the high-value target. The remaining figures immediately took cover, their tactical response confirming their special operations background. "Target down," Thompson whispered, his voice carrying unmistakable admiration. "Perfect shot at 700 meters in near-zero visibility. That was absolutely exceptional shooting." Sarah worked the bolt smoothly, chambering a fresh round while scanning for additional targets. The remaining enemy personnel had disappeared into the terrain, demonstrating the kind of immediate reaction that marked professional soldiers. Her single shot had eliminated their leader and disrupted their mission, achieving exactly the effect intended. Webb monitored radio communications to assess enemy reaction to the engagement. The successful interdiction had apparently created significant confusion among hostile forces, with multiple units being redirected to investigate the incident. Sarah's team had achieved a tactical victory that would influence the entire exercise. "Outstanding work," Webb said simply. "That shot will be talked about for years in sniper training programs." The team immediately began preparing for extraction from their current position. Standard doctrine required movement after any engagement to avoid counterattacks against known sniper positions. Sarah quickly broke down her rifle while the others gathered equipment and prepared for tactical movement. Within 15 minutes, they had vacated their observation post and begun moving toward an alternate position, 3 kilometers away. Sarah led the night movement, using her natural ability to navigate in darkness while maintaining tactical awareness. The mountain terrain required careful route selection to avoid noise while moving quickly enough to stay ahead of any pursuit. The alternate position offered different advantages, including multiple escape routes and concealment from aerial observation. As dawn approached, The team established security and began planning their next phase of operations. Sarah's successful night engagement had elevated team morale and demonstrated capabilities that exceeded even Webb's high expectations. "Martinez, that shot last night was something special," Rodriguez commented as they settled into their new hide site. "I've worked with snipers for 8 years, and I've never seen anything quite like that level of precision under those conditions." The acknowledgement from Rodriguez carried particular weight, as her experience with multiple sniper teams provided perspective that pure training couldn't match. Sarah felt genuine acceptance from her teammates, earned through demonstrated performance rather than granted as a courtesy. The second day brought new challenges as opposing forces increased their patrol activity in response to the previous night's engagement. Sarah's team found themselves operating in an environment with significantly higher threat levels, requiring enhanced stealth and tactical patience. Through her scope, Sarah observed multiple enemy patrols searching the area where they had conducted the night engagement. The intensity of the search confirmed that her target had indeed been high value, justifying the tactical risks they had accepted. The enemy's reaction also demonstrated the strategic impact that a single well-placed sniper could have on larger operations. Thompson had become increasingly comfortable working with Sarah, their partnership developing into the kind of seamless cooperation that marked the best sniper teams. His target identification and environmental observations perfectly complemented her shooting abilities, creating a combined capability greater than either could achieve individually. "Enemy patrol. 800 meters moving along the primary ridge," Thompson reported. "Count 8 personnel with heavy weapons. They appear to be establishing an observation post." Sarah studied the patrol through her scope, noting their equipment and tactical procedures. The establishment of an enemy observation post in their operational area would significantly complicate future missions, potentially requiring immediate action to maintain tactical advantage. Webb evaluated the situation carefully before authorizing engagement. The enemy observation post represented a direct threat to their mission, while also offering an opportunity to further disrupt opposing force operations. Sarah would need to engage multiple targets in rapid succession, testing her ability to maintain accuracy under time pressure. The engagement began with Sarah eliminating the enemy team's radio operator, preventing them from calling for support. She immediately shifted to their apparent leader, delivering a second precise shot before the survivors could effectively take cover. Thompson provided real-time target updates while Sarah continued engaging the remaining threats. Within 90 seconds, she had eliminated 4 of the 8 enemy personnel, forcing the survivors to abandon their equipment and retreat from the area. The rapid engagement demonstrated not only exceptional marksmanship, but also the tactical thinking required to prioritize targets effectively. 4 confirmed hits. Remaining targets in retreat, Thompson reported. Enemy equipment abandoned in place. Park moved forward to examine the abandoned equipment, discovering communications gear and surveillance equipment that provided valuable intelligence about enemy capabilities. Sarah's engagement had not only eliminated immediate threats but had also produced actionable intelligence for hire. Headquarters. The success of the engagement spread quickly through the exercise control network. Instructors monitoring the exercise began paying particular attention to Sarah's team, recognizing that something exceptional was happening in the mountains. Her performance was establishing new standards for what could be achieved by superbly trained and motivated soldiers. As the third day progressed, Sarah found herself increasingly comfortable in the leadership role that her exceptional abilities naturally created. While Webb remained the official team leader, tactical decisions increasingly revolved around optimizing her employment as the team's primary weapon system. The transformation in team dynamics reflected a broader change in how Sarah viewed herself and her role. She had evolved from someone seeking acceptance to someone whose capabilities naturally commanded respect and attention. The change felt natural and appropriate, reflecting genuine growth rather than artificial promotion. "Martinez, we need to talk about your future assignments." William's voice crackled over the secure radio during their evening communication window. "Your performance is attracting attention at very high levels. We may have some interesting opportunities to discuss when you return." Sarah felt excitement at the possibilities implied by William's comments. Recognition from senior leadership suggested that her training success might lead to real operational opportunities, where her skills could contribute to genuine military objectives. That evening, as the team prepared for another night of operations, Thompson approached Sarah with a serious expression. "I owe you more than an apology," he said quietly. "I owe you acknowledgement that you're the best natural sniper I've ever worked with." The statement meant everything to Sarah, representing complete acceptance from someone whose initial skepticism had been particularly challenging. Thompson's professional respect, earned through repeated demonstrations of competence, validated every hour of training and every sacrifice she had made to reach this point. As darkness fell over the mountains, Sarah prepared for what would likely be their most challenging night yet. Enemy forces had adapted to their tactics and were actively hunting for the sniper team that had disrupted their operations. The final test of her abilities and her team's cohesion was about to begin. The fourth night brought the most intensive enemy activity of the entire exercise. Sarah's team detected multiple patrols converging on their general area, supported by vehicles and what appeared to be specialized hunter-killer teams trained specifically to locate and eliminate snipers. The opposition had clearly decided that neutralizing her team was their top priority. "This is exactly what we'd face in real combat," Webb observed as they monitored enemy communications. "When a sniper becomes effective enough, the entire enemy effort focuses on elimination. It's actually a compliment to your shooting, Martinez." Sarah felt both pride and responsibility at his words. Her success had elevated the exercise's intensity, creating realistic pressure that would benefit every member of her team. The enemy's focused attention confirmed that her performance had achieved the kind of tactical impact that justified the sniper program's investment in training. The team's hide site occupied a narrow ledge on a cliff face, accessible only by technical climbing and invisible from most observation angles. Sarah had selected the position based on its defensive advantages and the exceptional fields of fire it provided across multiple valleys. If enemy forces located them here, extraction would be extremely challenging. Through her night vision scope, Sarah could see enemy patrols moving systematically through the valleys below. Their search pattern indicated professional training and serious intent to locate her team. The opposition was employing thermal imaging equipment and coordinated movement techniques that represented sophisticated counter-sniper tactics. Movement. North Valley, approximately 1,200 meters, Thompson reported quietly. Large patrol with vehicles. They appear to be establishing checkpoints on all major routes. Sarah studied the distant activity through her scope, noting the deliberate way enemy forces were controlling terrain and limiting her team's movement options. The tactical situation was becoming increasingly complex, requiring careful planning to maintain operational effectiveness while avoiding compromise. Rodriguez intercepted radio communications, indicating that the enemy had identified their general area and was preparing to conduct a detailed search using specialized tracking teams. The opposition's persistence confirmed that Sarah's previous engagements had created significant operational disruption, justifying the resources being devoted to neutralizing her team. "We have maybe 4 hours before they reach this area," Rodriguez reported. "They're bringing in tracking dogs and thermal imaging equipment. This is getting serious." Webb gathered the team for immediate tactical planning. Their options were limited: remain hidden and hope to avoid detection, attempt extraction through increasingly controlled terrain, or engage the search teams and fight their way to safety. Each option carried significant risks and potential benefits. Sarah found herself playing an increasingly central role in the tactical discussion. Her exceptional performance had naturally elevated her influence within the team, and her teammates looked to her input on engagement decisions. The responsibility felt appropriate and natural, reflecting genuine leadership earned through demonstrated competence. "If we engage the search teams, we can disrupt their coordination and create opportunities for movement," she suggested. "I can eliminate key personnel from this position while you prepare extraction routes." Thompson nodded approvingly. "With this elevation advantage and clear fields of fire, Martinez can control the entire valley. We could break up their search pattern and extract during the confusion." The plan developed quickly, with each team member accepting specific responsibilities. Sarah would provide precision fire against high-value targets while the others prepared equipment and identified escape routes. The coordination required precise timing and flawless execution under extreme pressure. As dawn approached, the first search team entered Sarah's engagement area. Through her scope, she could identify the team leader, radio operator, and personnel carrying specialized tracking equipment. Her first shot would need to eliminate the most critical target, while initiating tactical advantages for her team. The team leader presented the clearest target, standing in an exposed position while directing his subordinates' search activities. Sarah calculated range, wind, and environmental factors before settling into her final firing position. The shot would be approximately 900 meters under difficult lighting conditions, requiring everything she had learned about precision marksmanship. Her rifle fired smoothly, the bullet striking the target precisely as intended. The immediate confusion among the search team provided exactly the disruption her team needed to begin their extraction. Thompson confirmed the hit while monitoring the enemy's reaction to the engagement. "Target down, immediate confusion in the search team," he reported. "They're taking cover and calling for support." Sarah immediately shifted to secondary targets, eliminating the radio operator before enemy forces could coordinate an effective response. Her rapid engagement of key personnel disrupted the search team's capabilities while creating tactical opportunities for her team's movement. Park and Rodriguez had prepared their equipment for rapid movement, allowing the team to begin extraction immediately after Sarah's engagement. Chen established communication with exercise control to coordinate their final extraction. From the training area, the movement through enemy-controlled terrain required every technique they had learned about tactical movement and concealment. Sarah provided overwatch from successive positions while her teammates bounded between cover, gradually working their way toward the designated extraction zone. Multiple enemy patrols converged on their movement route, creating several tense moments where detection seemed inevitable. Sarah's ability to eliminate key threats at critical moments allowed her team to continue moving, despite increasingly overwhelming opposition. As they approached the final extraction point, Instructor Williams appeared with exercise control personnel to observe their arrival. The presence of senior leadership confirmed that Sarah's performance throughout the exercise had attracted significant attention from the training establishment. "Outstanding work, all of you," Williams announced as the team crossed into the extraction zone. "This exercise will be studied and referenced for years. Martinez, your shooting was simply exceptional." The immediate after-action review focused extensively on Sarah's performance and her team's tactical adaptations to maximize her capabilities. Her evolution from individual performer to team leader had impressed instructors and established new models for how sniper teams could be employed. As the exercise concluded and equipment was cleaned and stored, Sarah reflected on her transformation over the past months. She had entered the program seeking acceptance and had discovered instead that exceptional performance naturally commanded respect and created leadership opportunities. Thompson approached her during equipment turn-in, his expression serious but positive. "Sarah, I need to say something important," he began. "You've changed how I think about capability and potential. You've earned something that can't be taught or granted. You've earned the right to be called a warrior." Acknowledgement represented complete acceptance from someone whose initial skepticism had been particularly challenging. Sarah felt genuine satisfaction, knowing that her success had been earned through sustained excellence rather than granted as accommodation. 6 months later, Sarah received orders to her first operational assignment, where her training performance had earned her a position with an elite special operations unit. As she prepared to leave the training facility, she carried with her not only exceptional skills but also the confidence that came from proving herself against the highest standards. Her grandfather's lessons about patience, precision, and perseverance had guided her through every challenge. More importantly, she had discovered that excellence in any field required not just individual capability, but also the ability to contribute to something larger than oneself. She was ready for whatever challenges awaited her in the field, confident in her abilities and proud of the path that had brought her to this moment.